died at 12:55 a.m., December 4th, 2025, at Hospice Serenity House in Oskaloosa. He was born February 21st, 1935 in Ottumwa to Bettis Johanna and Elma Johanna Romer Rushman. He married Patricia Ann Welch June 1st, 1957, and she preceded him in death on October 22nd, 2020. Growing up in Ottumwa, Egon served in the Iowa Army National Guard. He had worked for Harper McIntyre and for the city of Ottumwa in maintenance and as a shift operator, retiring as supervisor of maintenance. Surviving is his twin daughters, Kim Allen Jones of Flores and Brenda Jim Farnsworth of Elkhorn, Nebraska. Two sons, Mark Rushman of Eldon and Jim Laurie Rushman of Bloomfield. 8 grandchildren, Jason Jones, Mindy Royster, Jeremy Farnsworth, Isaiah Rushman, Kenzie Rushman, Brandon Rushman, Josie Lynch, Leah Rushman, and several great-grandchildren. That was a mouthful there. He was preceded in death by his parents, sisters, Amy Rushman and Tilda Nelson, and brother John Rushman. Memorials will be made to the Hospice Serenity House. I just want the family to know out of the chute that the flag is at half-staff at the American Legion today during the service in honor of Egon. At this time, we'll play another song. Everybody has a story, and everybody's story should be told. I have the privilege this afternoon to share a little bit of Egon's story. Some of the stories you may know, some of them you may not, but regardless, it's his story. When I officiate funerals where people had got up in the age, I like looking up the prices of stuff when they was born. And before I share the story, I'm going to share some of that with you just so you can put his story all in perspective. In 1935, a loaf of bread was 8 to 9 cents. A dozen eggs was 33 cents. A gallon of milk was 47 cents. A new Ford V8, $495. It'd be more than that per month to pay the payment nowadays. A new average home was $3,400 to $6,300. A gallon of gas was 19 cents. A pound of bacon was only 27 cents. Ground beef was 10 cents a pound. A 10-pound bag of potatoes was 24 cents. Stamps were 3 cents. But to put it in perspective, $1 in 1935 is equivalent to $23.65 today. Like the obit said, he was born in 1935. He served 11 years in the Iowa Army National Guard. Egon's dad passed away when he was in 8th grade, so he quit school to get a job and help feed the family. He worked on the milk truck, his first job, and he loved it, so the driver didn't have to get in and out all the time. He's the one that ran up to the house. And around noontime, they would deliver it to a cafe, and they'd always give him a sandwich, and he called it a brain lunch. He never drank, smoked, or did drugs the whole 90 years he was living. He was a handyman, could fix anything, but people in that generation learned how to fix everything. He helped Jim Farnsworth one time. Jim had some frozen pipes underneath his house or trailer, and Egon got underneath there and ripped his insulation apart and says, "Hey, go get me a pipe about this long and fix the frozen pipes." Everything he ever bought, especially appliances, he kept the manual for. So the family finally talked him into buying a cell phone. And it didn't come with directions, so he had Lori look online so he can have a manual to put with the rest of his stuff. They shared with me he had 9 lives, and they shared about 4 of them. First one was, he fell off the viaduct years ago, up underneath the bridge. He was getting pigeons and the pigeon eggs to sell for money to help with the family, and somehow fell off the viaduct. Never got hurt, they said. He fell off the hydro while working for the city of Ottumwa and never got hurt. He was working on the telephone pole, and he didn't know the bottom of it was rotted, so the telephone pole and him fell. And they said they was lucky because he probably would have got electrocuted if he would have stayed up there. And last but not least, he burnt himself lighting a furnace one time. He told the family that the guardian angels worked overtime with me, so they earned their wings. He loved his grandkids, lit up every time they came into the room. He slid down a bounce house just last March. They said he finally got up the stairs, sat down, and he didn't start sliding yet. So he started bouncing up and down, and as soon as he started sliding, he says, "Here we go." One time, Jim and Lori were painting their house, and they never wanted Egon to help because he always had a bad habit of accidentally getting paint on the ceiling that they didn't want to paint. So he showed up one day and wanted to help, and Jim thought he was outsmarting his dad and hit all the long rollers so he can only go so far. So he had the little one. He says, "I'm not going very far." He goes, "Well, just do the best you can." So the next day, Jim went and bought a brand new long roller and came back and started painting. One day, son Jim was cutting some trees, and then again, Egon wanted to help him. And again, Jim had to hide all the other chainsaws because he didn't want his dad cutting. So his dad outsmarted him again and went to the Amish the next day and bought a brand new chainsaw and brought it to him. What a stud, huh? He called daughter-in-law Lori, called Egon here a while back, and he says, hey, we're having family pictures, and had the date and time. And she told him that the color theme is blues and tans. And he says, I'll wear what I have. One of the funnier stories, he had a stationary bike, and the doctor wanted him to pedal 30 minutes a day. I'm so blessed to get to tell these stories because I'm just a messenger. So he told the doctor, he goes, I really get winded pedaling that bike for 30 minutes. So the doctor says, well, why don't you do 10 minutes 3 times a day, and then you'll get your 30 minutes in. And he said, well, I'd last longer if I take my teeth out. Excuse me. And when he'd mow his yard, he would tell people that if I pull my teeth out, I can breathe better while I'm mowing. Time to time, he'd be watching a football game when some of the family's over, and he'd invite Jim and people to come in and watch the game, and it never failed when the game got really close. He would turn the volume down, and they all looked at him. He goes, I can't hear it anyway. The best story I heard, I wanted to save till last, that most of you probably know, that Egan's wife was in a nursing home for 7 years. And Egan went there every day, unless the roads were too bad to drive on, from 10 a.m. till 7, every day for 7 years, and put 80,000 miles on his vehicle. And when people say that that's the best generation ever, it's the best generation ever. You know, to do something like that says a lot about his character. I thought about that comment every time I leave a family after them sharing stories. One story sticks out a little bit more than others. That don't mean it's the best one, it's just how my brain works. And the story about him seeing his wife for 7 years every day in a nursing home. I officiated a funeral here a while back. A good friend of mine, Harley Ward, some of you may have known him, he retired John Deere guy. And the story that stuck out with him when his family shared it with me, he said when him and 3 boys were younger, Harley, his wife, and the 3 boys would take a car ride every night at 7 o'clock. No matter what, every night. When the kids graduated high school and went off to become adults and move out of the house, every night at 7 o'clock, Harley and his wife took a car ride. She passed away in 2019, and the last 6 years of his life, he took a car ride at 7 o'clock every night. And it kind of makes you wonder, the last 6 years, he probably thought about that first chapter and the second chapter of his life. So I tell people at funerals, what chapter are you in? Are you in the chapter where you're young and got kids? Are you in the chapter where the kids had moved out of the house and just you and your spouse? Or are you in that chapter that it's just you? You know, that's the way life is. We really don't think of life until we have to face it, like today. But something to ponder as you're pondering life through this time. At this time, we will play. No, I take it back. We're going to have Josie come up. And then after that, Mindy will come up.
Okay, I tell myself I'm going to do this, so we'll see. Okay, I'm going to get it together. Okay, so today we're here to celebrate my grandpa. You might be coming in. And I had too much to say, so we'll see here. Okay. And the remarkable life he lived. Speaking in front of people isn't something that came naturally, but loving Grandpa always did. I've been carrying so many memories, and I wanted to share some of those with you today. So bear with me. Some of my earliest childhood memories with Grandpa were the cookie jar that sat in his kitchen. That was the first thing Leah and I always did, was to go clean that noisy cookie jar. He always had it stocked with the sandwich cookies with the cream filling in the middle. And every now and then he'd throw in some peanut butter ones. But it was always the first thing Leah and I would do when we walked in the house. The problem was cookies made you thirsty. And while most people would reach for milk, I absolutely hated milk. I hated the 2% milk that we had at home. But I really hated the skim milk that Grandpa always kept stocked. Grandpa, being the calm and collected man he was, went through a phase where he was determined that I needed to drink more milk. I might have forced down a glass or two, but eventually I got smarter. I'd take my cup to the bathroom nonchalantly and quickly dump it down the drain. But that's something that I don't even think I've really told anybody, but it makes me laugh every time I think about it. So today I brought Grandpa's cookie jar, or we brought Grandpa's cookie jar, and I filled it with those same sandwich cookies with the cream filling. So as you leave today, please help yourself. I know he would be proud to know that someone enjoyed a little treat in his memory. I also remember the simple, everyday moments Leah and I had. We would build forts out of the couch cushions while Grandpa sat nearby reading newspapers or an owner's manual from start to finish. I mean, if he was going to read that thing, he didn't just read a few pages and whatever it was he was working on or had a problem with at the moment. He knew that thing from start to finish. And Grandma was likely tweezing her eyebrows watching soap operas. Those little scenes are etched in my mind forever. There were many days when Grandma was working at the high school cafeteria, and it would be just us with Grandpa. We filled our time with competitive games of memory on the living room floor, taking walks around the neighborhood, or just running errands together. I feel like he always had errands to run. But without fail, he would always be there for her to pick her up, always early. He was reliable in every sense. Speaking of early, he was always early for whatever he had in store that day, whether it was a family gathering, sporting event. You could always count on Grandpa to show up early. It became a running joke in our family about what time we should actually tell Grandpa, because he would usually be at least 45 minutes early. But at times, it wasn't unusual for him to come 2 hours early just to hang out. When I was in high school, that became a joke on the bus, too. I played mostly varsity, which meant I didn't even start until the last game of the night. We'd arrive around 4 o'clock to support our freshman and JV teams, and I wouldn't play until closer to 7. But I remember one game in particular in Centerville. The bus pulled into the parking lot, and there they were, Grandma and Grandpa, waiting for all of us. All my friends knew how much they loved watching us play. They watched us get off the bus, they watched the freshmen warm up, and the freshmen play, and the JV do the same. And then, of course, they were right there for every second of my game. Grandpa always kept score in his head. He didn't need a scoreboard. He'd ask, is it 3-5? Or whatever the score might have been. And 98% of the time, he was spot on. He knew sports through and through. He was one of my biggest fans. I knew I wouldn't be able to get through that part. And as life's changed, he's became my boys' biggest fan too. Some of the traits he carried at my games, he carried at theirs. Loyalty, quiet excitement, and the steady presence you could always depend on. Those evenings at the ball field were long, but you could always count on Grandpa taking a break at some point for a walking taco and Gatorade. That oftentimes ended up on his white t-shirt that he wore. But don't worry, Dad always gave him crap about that. As the years went on, my boys grew older and their hobbies changed, and sheep showing quickly became a big part of our family, especially for Landon. When he was younger, you could always find him at the ball fields or the court, but as he grew, farming became a true passion. And this is where things got complicated for Grandpa. Just like anything else, he was going to show up. No questions about it. He always wanted to be there and support us with whatever we were doing. But the sheep show world was something that didn't come naturally to him. He'd show up with a big smile, but you could tell deep down he had absolutely no idea what the hell was going on. They all looked the same to him. Half the time he couldn't hear the judge, and the other half, when he could hear, listening to the judge describe sheep in detail was like a foreign language. But he still showed up every time, and just in the last few months, he told Landon something simple but meaningful. You just got to do what you love. Grandpa was truly one of the most faithful card givers I've ever known. Whether it was a birthday, Easter, or Christmas, you could always count on him to have a card ready. It was one of the many small ways he showed how reliable and thoughtful he was. But the part that always made us smile is that you never quite knew who the card was going to be made out to. He meant well every time, but names were just a little tricky for him. Judson was usually always Justin. And Dad would correct him, and it was still Justin. And there were plenty more, but that was the first one that came to mind. Just last week, I was talking to one of my high school friends, and she asked how Grandpa was. And then she just laughed and said, Cody. Her name was Colby. And he would have heard that. Like, he read it on hundreds of rosters, so we were always on the same team. He would have read that over and over for years. He heard it announced countless times. But to Grandpa, serious and innocent as ever, she was Cody. And honestly, that was just part of his everyday charm. We just look at each other and smile. The bounce houses was one of the things. Even as he got older, Grandpa never lost that silly, determined spirit that made him so lovable. Just this February, not long after turning 90 years young, we had rented some of the inflatables for Jarrett and Jetson's birthday. And it was just me and Grandpa and the kids, and he was sitting there watching them play, smiling like always. And then all of a sudden, he started taking off his shoes. And I thought to myself, he's really going to go up that slide. I've lost my place. I knew I did not think that was a good idea, but I also knew better than to question him. So I just said a quick prayer instead. And sure enough, he went up, climbing the ladder with the 4- and 5-year-olds. Completely determined, he got to the top, sat with Lakin and Jetson, and they were all so proud and clearly living their best lives. It took a little bouncing at the top to get him going. But down he came with his arms wrapped around the kids, all of them laughing with the biggest smile on their faces. That was him. Something that has really stood out to me this week is how many people mentioned his smile. I always knew he was happy to be around, but I never realized how many people noticed it too. So many people have told me that he always had a smile on his face. Whether he could hear what was being said or not, people could notice across the room his smile. In the past few years, Grandpa and I had a little saying between us. Every time I saw him, I'd ask, "What do you know today, Grandpa?" And without hesitation, he'd grin and say, "Not enough, just enough to get in trouble." It became our thing. Simple, silly, but so him. Over the past few weeks, we started to see little signs that were changing. Even though for the most part, for his whole life pretty much, he's lived such an active, independent, and full of that familiar spunk. He drove himself wherever he needed to go, showed up for everything, and lived his days with determination and purpose. After the strokes, we could tell life wasn't the same for him, and we knew it wasn't how he wanted to live. That just wasn't who he was for the last 90 years. So today, even through the sadness, we can still find comfort knowing he's in heaven, whole again, watching over us from the best seat in the house. And I have one last story for you, if I can get through this one. Just to wrap it all up, and Grandpa has always shown up for us and been a part of our lives, even now. The night he took his last breath, we were visiting him, and Jetson had a school assignment due the next day. He had to create a gingerbread man in disguise, so I packed some stick paints, stopped at Dollar Tree for little mustaches and googly eyes so he could work on it in Papa's room while we sat with him. Jetson went to town on that gingerbread man, paint everywhere, all different colors, a mustache, big eyes, the whole works. Then he had to write what his gingerbread man was disguised as. I asked, Jet, what do you want to call you this guy? And before he could even respond, Kim leaned over. She was there. She said, well, that looks like he's wearing the coat of many colors. And Jetson had never heard of that book before, so he just smiled, and we ended up naming it the Mustache Man. But 2 days later, just yesterday, we got the mail, and he's on this program. It's the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. He signed up for like a book club, so he gets a book every month. And out of all the books in the world he could have received, here it is. The Coat of Many Colors. So I looked at Jet and I said, I think you just got mail for Papi from heaven. And he had a big smile on his face. So, once again, Grandpa might not be here physically, but moments like that make it clear that he's still here with us all. And he's showing up for us in his own way. All of my boys had such a strong bond with him, something I know that they'll carry forever. Grandpa, thank you for showing up for us, showing us what true strength, determination, and genuine kindness looks like. You lived your life like a champ, and we're forever grateful for the time we had with you. We'll miss you big time, but honor you long time. Don't forget a cookie on your way out.
Well, Josie, you did great. You made it. You did great. Now I got to follow that up. My name's Mindy, and I am a granddaughter to Grandpa Egon. Strong, stubborn, devoted, ever-present, positive, and loving. One are just a few of the words that I would use to describe my grandpa. Now let me tell you the stories that go along with those words. Strong. Grandpa was the youngest 90-year-old that I have ever known. Between his job with the city, doing handiwork at his house, and all of our family houses too, to painting his whole outside of his house just a few years ago, Grandpa showed strength in all that he did. The doctors told us he would only have a week to live after his second stroke. The nurses from the hospice house called us almost 4 times to hurry and get there because he was going to not make it. Well, let's just say he proved them all wrong. Stubborn. My mom has always said she gets her bullheadedness from her dad. From wanting things done a certain way, Jimmy and him would argue and fight over house projects, often because it should be done this way, but he wanted another way. One of his children would tell him not to do something, but the next thing you know, up the ladder he went. One time I was playing softball at Fairfield, and I had hurt my back. But it was a close game, so my coach and my dad didn't want to take me out. I had never seen my grandpa so mad in my life. He stood right up to my dad and told him, "It's just a game. Don't risk her back for a game." He didn't back down from that tall 6'5" of my dad. After his strokes, he had a hard time grabbing things, getting his spoon to his mouth, grabbing his cup. But wow, the look I got when I tried to help him, it told me I needed to put that damn spoon down so that he could do it himself. Devoted. I have never seen someone so devoted in their life as I was that I saw that my grandpa was to my grandma. Grandma never drove. Grandpa didn't mind taking her wherever she wanted to go. Grandma loved to shop, especially at Christmas. And Grandpa would always go right along because it made my grandma happy. When Grandma's dementia started to get worse, it killed Grandpa to not have her at home. I heard Grandma say some things to him because of her illness, but he was always right there, right along with her. When Grandma went to the care center, Grandpa went every day, even during COVID, sitting outside her hospital room. Devoted husband, father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Like Josie said, ever present, always showed up. Volleyball, basketball, football, softball, baseball, track, mutton busting, sheep shows, birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, he made them all. Sitting through 100-degree weather, rain, snow, multiple events in one day, nothing ever stopped him from showing up. You don't know how comforting it was to hear, "Good job, hun," no matter if we won 10-0 or if we lost 0-10. Grandpa's support and words were the best. It was nice to know that no matter if you struck out, overthrew a ball at first, lost a game, Grandpa would still have positive, kind words for you. We should have kept account of how many sporting events he attended over the years. The other day, when I was visiting Grandpa at the hospice house, I was telling him how much I loved Christmas Eve. When I was young, he would come for dinner, we would play games, we would go look at Christmas lights, and then we would go to midnight mass at St. Pat's Church. Those were some of my best memories. So I was telling him this, and I wanted him to know that he wasn't always a Grinch at Christmas. He looked at me with the saddest eyes on his face, tears in his eyes, grabbed a hold of my hand and squeezed. I didn't mean to make him sad. I wanted him to know how special his presence was to me. I want to believe his tears were because he loved those same special times with all his family. Thank you, Grandpa, for always showing up. Positive. I hardly ever in my whole life did not see a smile from my grandpa We've often talked about this smile. I can hardly remember a time that my grandpa was ever really mad. He was a positive light during all those times. Sure, he may have been opinionated or wanted things to go his way, but even so, he always had a smile and positive words for his grandkids. My best friend Kelly, who my grandpa loved just like he loved me, reminded me of one story. And my grandpa would always be at all of our softball games, right up at the fence, cheering us on. And he would cheer just as loud for Kelly as he would for me. And he was cheering her on, and he said, "Let's go, Kelso." And Kelly's quick response back to him was, "Okay, Ego." Those names have stuck around for a long time. Loving. Grandpa may have not been overly affectionate. He may not have told his kids, "I love you," often, and he may not always have hugged us. But his actions spoke more than those words or those hugs. He showed up. He babysat us. He would give you the shirt off his back. He laughed with us, did crafts with us, painted some really cool pumpkins for Halloween. He bought us more Christmas presents than we ever needed, was patient with Grandma, even when it was hard. He helped all of us with projects around our houses. I could go on and on through the ways that he has shown us love. As the years went on, something happened, and as Grandpa got older, he started giving more hugs. He would tell me, "I love you, hon." And he started telling my mom, "I love you, and I mean it." This last couple of months has been really hard on all of us. But when I sat and reflected on all that has happened, I honestly believe Grandpa was once again showing us love through actions. Like I said, the doctors told us he had 1 week. Hospice called about 3 or 4 times and told us to hurry up and get there. But Grandpa wasn't having it. He loved us enough to make sure that Josie and her family got back safely from Mexico. He made sure Leah and I got to spend much-needed cousin time, bonding, during our sleepover with Grandpa. He made sure we all came to visit and spent time telling stories and spending time with each other when we normally don't have that time. He made sure that my mom recovered from COVID and got to be with him one last time. See, he held on to make sure all of us were good. That's how much he loved us. Now we have to carry on Grandpa's legacy of strength, stubbornness, devotion, ever-present, positive, and love to all of those around us. We love you, Grandpa, Papa E, Ego, Egon. We will miss you daily, but we will love you always. Thank you.
At this time, we'll play the next song. Everybody leaves a legacy. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, or whether it's somewhere in between, we all leave a legacy. Every morning you wake up and leave your house, you're leaving a legacy. At the beginning, when I said everybody has a story and everybody's story should be told, I was talking to you guys too. Every one of you guys have a story. And those of you that don't think your story is very valuable are usually the most valuable stories, because there's someone that needs to hear part of your story to help them in their journey of life. The day he was born in Ottumwa, Iowa, Egon was leaving a legacy. When his dad passed away when he was in 8th grade and he had to quit school and go to work and make money for the family, Egon was leaving a legacy. The day he fell off the viaduct catching pigeons and their eggs to sell to help feed his family, Egon was leaving a legacy. Every day he went to work at Harmax, the city, and in the military, Egon was leaving a legacy. Every time he told the family that the guardian angels worked overtime with him and that they deserved their wings, Egon was leaving a legacy. And every time he lit up, every time he seen his grandkids, Egon was leaving a legacy. And last spring, when he went down that slide on the bounce house with 2 of the grandkids, Egon was leaving a legacy. Every time he would help Jim and Lori paint and would accidentally get paint on the ceiling, Egon was leaving a legacy. And when he told the doctor, I can't go 30 minutes straight on the stationary bike, but if I take my teeth out, I can go longer, Egon was leaving a legacy. Every time he had asked the family to come in and watch the football game, and then when they got there, he turned the volume down, Egon was leaving a legacy. And when he went to the nursing home to visit his wife for 7 years every day and put 80,000 miles on his vehicle, Egon was leaving a legacy. And last but not least, when he raised his right hand and signed on the dotted line to join the Iowa Army National Guard, which meant he was willing to die for his country, Egon was leaving a legacy. I was going to read the letter at this time, but I'll read that out at the cemetery, so at this time we'll play the last song. most of us have been to enough funerals to know that the funeral's not really for the person that passed away, they're for us. And I have a couple short examples of God's love that we'll leave on, and then we'll do military honors. I was watching a show here a while back, and the NFL draft was getting ready to start. And this one particular player really wanted to play on this particular pro team. And that particular pro team had a head coach that really wanted this player. And they had a conversation, and the coach says, in order for me to get you, I have to trade somebody else because of the salary cap. But I'll keep you updated. And the day of the draft, the head coach was able to trade a guy and able to get this guy that he wanted. Now, naturally, that football player was excited. The coach was excited. But in life, no one cared about the person that got traded. And I'm sure that person had bills to pay and a family to feed. And the more I thought about that story, I thought, you know, when each one of us was born, God looked at us and said, you're my number one draft choice. And God won't trade you. Man will trade you every day. The second example and final one on the example of God's love. When he created Egon Rushman, he could have put him anywhere in the world. I want you to hear me. God could have put him anywhere in the world. And God chose Ottumwa, Iowa for you. And temporarily me. That's how much God loves you. Look at all the people that never got to meet Egon. And Ottumwa, Iowa had him for 90 years. To the family, I want to thank you for this opportunity. It was truly my honor, and I am truly humbled. Let's end in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. You know the hearts and souls of everybody here today, Lord, the sadness. I pray that you have your hands upon them, Lord. We thank you for giving us Egon for 90 years right here in Ottumwa when you could have put him anywhere. I pray for the family as we leave here and go to the cemetery, Father. I pray that everybody here knows that you picked them as their number one draft choice, Lord. And for that, we can never thank you enough. In your powerful name we pray. Amen. The march of another veteran is over. His battle's all fought, and his victory's all won. That golden chain of comradeship is broken. When we speak of comradeship, let us reminisce a moment. Imagine Egan looking down at us, saying in a voice soft and low, thanks, comrades and friends. Until we meet again in front of the greatest commander of us all. Man is made a woman, and in just a few days filled with trouble. He comes forth like a flower, and is cut down. He fleeth like a shadow, and continueth not. This banner of love and devotion, already folded, is a living memorial to this courageous veteran, the one we come here to honor today. The blue field represents the sky, stars, watchfulness of God the eternal. The red stripes represents the blood, sweat, and tears this comrade gave for his country. The white stripes boldly proclaims the sense of security he's brought forth to our future generations. This is his flag. This is our spiritual heritage. Receive it with the tears of our mind and the faith in our hearts. as much as God has taken out of this world the soul of this departed comrade, we now commit this body to the ground to rest, and his soul to eternal peace. Now, comrade, in silent land, in death as in life, we will and shall salute you. Sergeant Arms, salute our departed comrade.